This is not an attack at all. I just want to say that after seeing the announcement for Gotham Knights, I believe that Warner Games has just made a huge mistake. Because the erasure of the disabled representation and disabled champion of Oracle has bothered me for a long time. And while I doubt it was ever intended this way, it is effectively ableist because it is erasing one of, if not the biggest current representation of an empowerment for disabled people in current comics, in recent comics. And Oracle, and not only that, but Oracle was super integral to the other Arkham games, so removing her just doesn't even make sense. Structurally, in my opinion, because, but also, disabled people need representation. They need it to be shown that they can be badass superheroes too, if that's what the game is about, us being able to become badass superheroes. Well, disabled people need to get to do that too, and Oracle is the perfect embodiment of accomplishing just that. Because she is disabled, but I mean, in pretty much any media that has Oracle, look at the badassery she has. She's in a wheelchair, but still able to just destroy anyone that tries to pick on her, thinking she's gonna be an easy target because of it. And I'm not physically disabled, but I have autism, so I am technically would fall under being disabled, just not physically. And representation has always been extremely important to me, both of groups and marginalized groups that I fall under, as well as others that I don't. Just in general, representation is a major thing for me. And I think erasing this figure is a huge mistake. I mean, in Nightwing Oracle Convergence, Dick, who is an able-bodied man, could not save the city without his disabled girlfriend, who did at least as much of the work as him, if not more. And that is huge. That is extremely important. And in Hush, I believe it is, Bruce even says that she is invaluable to him as Oracle. And this is Bruce saying that. Even Dick is shocked if he hears Bruce say so much as thanks, let alone saying someone is invaluable. And as Oracle, Babs is able to I have a video we need to talk about Barbara Gordon, but it's a bit ranty. But it gets a lot further in, but I really get in, I really go ham on some of these things that I'm talking about, in that if you want to look at that as well. But no, it is kind of ranty, so be prepared for that if you do look at it. Just a warning. Oracle is just extremely important. We need that character in the comics, in the game, in just everything. We really need her. She is extremely important. And removing her is just a huge mistake. And especially to replace her with an able-bodied version of her is... I doubt it's intentional, and I doubt they would ever mean anything by it, but it is effectively ableist. And that representation is just crucial. And because of my feelings about that representation thing, this erasure has hurt me very, very deeply for a long time, and there were a few things, DC Universe Online and the Arkham games, that I always thought of as this safe area where I could go and still have Oracle. Still have that figure. Still have that champion for disabled people. And besides, I think she's just a better character as Oracle. I think she's just so much cooler, so much more important, just in terms of story and in the world, as Oracle. She does so much more as Oracle than she ever did as Batgirl. I mean, running the Birds of Prey and just helping out with so many things and being this super crucial figure for so many of the big heroes from a wheelchair, from a computer. And the fact that she's able to do that, and also that she found her own ways to still help, and that they ended up being so important, is crucial for representation and empowerment of marginalized people, like disabled people. And hurling her backwards like this is like if Dick suddenly decided to put on those pixie boots and that bikini bottom again and start running around as Robin again. Like, no. Just no. That would be a slap in the face to anyone that even remotely cares about his character or how he's developed. And that's how I feel about Oracle in several ways, both in that way and in the representation way. Like, imagine if Northstar suddenly became straight, or Falcon, Sam Wilson, suddenly was made white. Again, I know you didn't mean anything by this, but it is a huge mistake, and I think it should be corrected or at least acknowledged. if it's too late for that. And if you need to have a Batgirl, and it's still possible to do this, like you're not too far for this, you could put Cass in, or even Stephanie Brown. But I think Cassandra Cain in particular would be a great fit for the Arkhamverse. I mean, she's basically proto-Damian in a way. But also her own character. But she's sort of an early version of some of the ideas that were used for Damian. In that she's the daughter of assassins, and that's something that she always has to deal with and resist. And she was trained from basically birth to be as deadly an assassin as possible. But now she's redirected that into the good fight, into the Bat family's fight. That seems like a pretty good fit for the Arkhamverse. And she's also half Asian, so that would also be good for representation as well. But also she's just a cool character and deserves attention. And love, and again would just be a good fit. Yeah, I think this erasure is a huge, huge, huge mistake. And when I saw it, I admit, screaming at the image of her on my screen and crying. And just imagine what someone who is paralyzed and wheelchair bound would be feeling looking at that, if it elicits that strong of an emotion out of me, who's a completely different kind of, technically, I fall under disabled. Just this is not an attack, this is just more just, I guess, an open letter or whatever. It's just trying to bring your attention to something, to a very important issue. And just it's just, even without the representation things, Oracle is just such an awesome character. The fact that she is so smart and able to do the things she does. From behind a computer screen. Like, even Calculator, the villains overheard Huntress talking to Babs as Oracle through her communicator, and sort of put two and two together and kind of figured out what must be going on there. And then Calculator was like, oh hey, I'm gonna do that for the villains, but like as business. Make them pay. So like she has influence even. And I mean, look at what Young Justice has done with her recently. She's been incredibly useful there. Both on and off the field, in that, like, she's been able to help from her computer with things going on the field, but also just help with, like, finding info and stuff. Because, like, and in DC Universe Online, she helps manage all the thousands and thousands of new superheroes. And is your guide, as she was in the previous Arkham games. And that is extremely important, both from the representation angle and just from a game structure angle. That, like, she's able to do that, again, from her computer, from her wheelchair, barely lifting a finger. It's just crucial. I believe. And again, this is not an attack. I know that you did not mean it this way at all, but it is highly important. It needs to be addressed now that the situation has been created. And I love seeing Jason get some love. And just so many other things look super cool. So if we could get that Oracle love again, and have her do some cool things as Oracle, as a disabled character, that would just make it even better. And it was from Arkham that I was finally able to get my first actual figure of her as Oracle, as this character that I love so much and that is so important to me, both as a character and as a champion of disabled and marginalized people. The Arkham games and how they had Oracle and had her be so important, and even gave us like the first and only figure that I'm aware of, was very reassuring to me. Very comforting. As someone that cares about these things, as someone that loves this character. I have her on my shelf right next to my Nightwing figure. And I believe she's always won the bets in that relationship. Which, again, is incredibly important. An incredibly important piece of empowerment. Her empowerment in her relationship as a disabled woman. And the fact that he needs her as much as, if not more than, she needs him. I'm Kestrel DC, and this has been my open letter to Warner Games.